So the state of our union is still strong. In July, responses were up about 15%. Average gift was down ever so slightly. We saw this in March. And oh, Lisa doesn't have a microphone. Things are going well there. That's good to hear. Down slightly on an average gift, but you know, when your response rate is up 15%, you'll take that. And generally speaking, throughout the year, we've seen things generally up. It was up by more in February, March, and April because we were comparing non-COVID times to COVID times. But even in May, June, July, we're seeing that even over last year's, what I would say, historic giving levels, we're still over and above those levels, which is really good to see. On recurring donors, an interesting report from Classy. So they found some intrinsic reasons that people were giving. The top reason that people articulated for intrinsically is that the recurring gift allows them to continuously support the organization. And this is in line with what I've generally found every time I've tested intrinsic reasons versus personal reasons. Every time you say test, this will help us respond to emergencies, or this will help us plan out our budget so we're able to do long-term investment, those will generally beat, this will help you for your own convenience, you won't have to think about it, those sorts of self-focused efforts, which is really good to hear. People are feeling like their ongoing donation makes a bigger impact, and that's a big reason why they're giving monthly. There are also incentives that people like. Affordability is one of them rather than convenience, the number one. But people do like physical swag and kind of recognition. And outside of this report, we've generally found this to be most effective when it's framed in terms of this is something that you can wear or put on your car or those sorts of things to spread the message. So it's an incentive, but it's also outward focus. You are helping spread the mission and the message of the organization. And that way it doesn't feel as quid pro quo-ish, which is nice. It won't surprise you to find out that recurring givers skew younger. So looking at this study, me being in late Gen X, I am on the old side for a recurring giver. Now, Classy is an online platform, and even within that, its donors tend to skew a little bit younger. But this is still a pretty good indication of where recurring givers are. People are saying that they lapse because of shifting financial priorities, or they've chosen to give one-time donations. Those aren't things that we can change a whole lot of, but there are some areas where we can make a difference. People not knowing if their funds are making an impact, not knowing how they can pause their donation, having expired credit cards, those can be solved by communications and systems, respectively. You know, better communications, more frequent communications, talking about the impact of your gift can be really valuable. And we saw a study a little while ago that said that people are more likely to make a monthly gift or make a monthly purchase if it's easy to stop or pause that going forward. And so not only will this prevent people from lapsing, letting people know how they can pause easily, but it will also help people come into the organization. Now, of course, this is a survey. This is what people say they do rather than what they really do. But in this case, it does kind of line up with what we see in real life. And this is the slide that you can use to talk when you have the board member or your boss's boss who says, I don't know why we're sending out all of this stuff. It's because of monthly givers, 38% want to hear from you more, 7% want to hear less frequently. So overwhelmingly, people want to hear more from organizations that they're giving to monthly. Part of that is that almost a quarter give one-time gifts. But most of it is knowing the impact of what they're doing and hearing about that on a repeated basis. So URL to that full study is here. But that connection is really why we're trying to create value, the way we're trying to create value for those monthly donors. Any questions on any of that? If you don't have a mic, feel free to shout it out in the chat as well. The University of Indiana's Lilly School on Philanthropy came out with their latest Giving Environment report. It's up through 2018, and they went through and aggregated 4 different reports. 2 of them, the philanthropy panel study on the top here, and the general social survey from University of Chicago down at the bottom, deal specifically with giving, and then the other 2, the current population survey and the consumer expenditures survey, are government reports that are done frequently that happen to have a question about giving in that. So they're trying to get all of these different giving streams, and there's a consistent case, even if the numbers aren't consistent, that the number of Americans giving has been going down. And this is not, as you might guess, a very good trend. In fact, for the first time ever, the PPS, the one out of University of Indiana, dropped to below half. So according to Lilly School of Philanthropy, fewer than half of American households are giving to charitable organizations. As a result, the average giving per American is dropping. Now, a lot of that is influenced by the fact that half of people are 0, so the most popular giving amount is 0, but that's still obviously not a very good thing. One of the hypotheses is that this is due to the Great Recession, and a decent part of it is. You can see in the darker colors a portion of the overall giving rate, secular giving rate, and religious giving rates. Share of that decline is from these financial measures, but a lot of it is not. The majority of it is not. And so at the risk of quoting myself from my book, it's looking across all different demographic figures, all races, all marital statuses, all income levels, all education levels, all political parties. All of these groups, all of the subgroups are giving less over time. So that is obviously not a good thing, and something that instills in us the fire to bring more people back into philanthropy. The hope is, of course, that COVID-19, with more people giving and more people giving more frequently, giving is a habit, not giving is a habit. And if we can get people in the habit of giving them the joy of giving from the time that they're now engaging in philanthropy, some of them for the first time, hopefully we can start that trend turning back around. Looking at young people, there was a recent, and how they engage with social causes, there was a recent study on 18 to 30-year-olds out of the Cause and Social Influence group. The top things that they're doing are what you might call slacktivism, signing a petition on a website. But the third one is very interesting: donating professional services that they'd normally be paid for. This is a preferred mode of volunteering right now, especially among young people, but you're seeing it all over, rather than younger people going out and building a house with Habitat for Humanity, although there is some of that as well. They're offering their personal legal services pro bono, or they're running a social media feed for their local animal shelter, those sorts of things. So during the day, you get paid to do something. At nighttime, you do it for free for a cause you believe in, which is really nice to see, in an interesting new model of philanthropy. Social media is a top instigator of what is influencing young Americans to ask, along with being contacted by the cause itself, which of course you need that person's contact information. And so while I derided a little bit slacktivism on the last page, that's how you're getting the contact information of a lot of these folks, and able to then have an ongoing conversation with that person. So the 44% of a cause or organization I follow, I took action at their request. That's because you were able to request it of them from some other means. The fact that third is a non-online advertisement does show that even non-addressable media, DRTV, radio, earned media, those sorts of things, is causing people to act, which is also nice to see. Not as nice to see: younger people are more vaccine resistant, more when people are getting the vaccine, it's largely, or at least largely because of healthcare experts, whether that's the CDC or the WHO or a healthcare professional. That's the influencer there. Now, a word of warning, this is the WHO. Do not take advice from the WHO. It's WHO, World Health Organization. In terms of why they go to work for a nonprofit, 40% of the people in the survey say they do or have worked for a nonprofit over time. And there's the rose-colored glasses version of why people would choose to work with a nonprofit, and we're told that younger generations are more cause-focused and, to borrow a term, woke than ever before. However, when talking to them themselves, the reasons they would choose to work for a nonprofit organization, the top two are benefits and salary. You know, I choose to do the work I do at night because I'm volunteering. The work I do during the day, I want to be paid for. Understandably, as do we all. I love my job and I love the opportunity to do it for a variety of causes. And I'm one of those people that at nighttime tries to donate what I can. But I wouldn't be doing my job in the way I'd be doing it if I weren't paid for it. So completely understandable. On the flip side, what stopped people from working at nonprofit organizations, same thing in reverse. Pay is too low, work too many hours, not getting a vacation, not having the opportunity for advancements, not enough budget. So it's really those household issues that are why or why not someone would work for a nonprofit. Although number 3, you'll see here why you'd work for a nonprofit organization is who it's serving. And that's really helping people pick which nonprofit they're going to work for, especially. Any questions on donor numbers or young people? I should rephrase that. Questions about young people that I have the ability to answer, because I have a teenager and an almost teenager in the house. There are many, many young people questions that I sure as heck cannot answer. Okay. With that caveat, donor advised funds, we saw Fidelity announcing a 27% year-over-year increase in the first half of 2021. Not all that surprising given the influx of people donating during COVID times. And in the first half of 2020, 1/4 of that was, if you can remember all the way back there, COVID free. So you would expect that sort of thing. Over 2020, there was a 24% year-over-year increase overall. Similar sort of story at Schwab. Their fiscal year ends on June 30th, and they had a 13% year-over-year increase. One thing that is really interesting is there was a 48% increase in unrestricted grants. Donor advised fund donors have traditionally been more likely to want to restrict their gifts, but as DAFs are a little bit more democratized, people are willing to make those unrestricted gifts out of those funds, which is really good to see because we all know we need the unrestricted giving. I'm really heartened by the example of folks like Mackenzie Scott, who, when they have the opportunity to give philanthropy, are giving it with no strings attached, and in fact doing it publicly with no strings attached. Hopefully others will follow that example. If folks are interested in learning more about DAFs, we have the Half My DAF webinar. That's up on our YouTube page with the founders of Half My DAF, and that shows a little bit about how you can get your DAFs matched during the year, which is really great. There's also one about finding donor advised fund donors. That's sort of the data side of things. I know these are kind of alphabet soup for links, so you can find both of these on the wearemore.com webinars page. We have them all included there. And I will confess that this was supposed to be an internal slide that slipped out. I do this presentation for our more audiences as well. So you can see it right, the marketing slick that we use for Simeo Journey, looking to find donor advised funds. And I wasn't quite ready to announce it, but we are working on a white paper about DAFs. So you guys get a peek behind the curtain there, that will be coming out soon. In the potpourri section, one thing that we're seeing a little bit of for clients and kind of seeing across the board for industries is a summer slump in web traffic. This does usually happen as people are going on more trips, but compared to last year, going on more trips sounds pretty idyllic this summer versus last. Leisure and hospitality, one area where web traffic is increasing. Every other area it's been declining. And so a little bit of a summer slump in web traffic. The vaccine is getting more popular since these calls kind of began with discussions of COVID-19. Want to keep that going, honor that legacy. It's been about the same 13 to 15% that are saying definitely not, I will not take the vaccine on a train, on a plane, with a goat, wearing a coat, those sorts of things. But over time, the people who have said, I'm going to get it as soon as possible have been getting it. And the number of people who are saying, wait and see, is declining. So it's really heartening to see shots in arms. I will say that one of my staff members is down with COVID right now, breakthrough infection. She'd been, you know, it's great to see that it's minimized because of that, but the symptoms are still very real. And so I tell people, COVID tried to kill me, so I'm trying to kill it back and then trying to spread the word about vaccinations. In one of our offices in Prince George's County in Lanham, Maryland, we're back to mask mandates. And so we're having more and more people working from home. We try to keep the potpourri section of this both amusing and also very classy. So of course I would not talk about Colin Murakami and his British Open win. And I definitely would not talk about the fact that someone smuggled in a fart machine to try to unnerve him on the 18th hole of the final round. He had to back off and stop the giggling. And that's certainly nothing that we would talk about on this webinar. Instead, we talk about classier things like the 6,000 false eyelashes that were seized by US Customs and Border Enforcement. These are unlicensed, unregulated eyelashes that were illegally imported into New Orleans. They hadn't been approved by the FDA, weren't labeled, and thus could be a disease vector. But normally you see these tables piled up with the latest drug interdiction effort. So to see false eyelashes was a little bit amusing to me. Looking at upcoming education, on September 9th, we're doing a webinar about Ask Strings, also available at wearemore/webinars. But I'll actually be leading that one. This has been an area of study of mine from back in my mad days and carried it through. So I have just nauseating amounts of detail on Ask String testing. This is definitely one of those areas that the more you know about it, the less you know. And so we'll also be talking about ways to test Ask Strings that will be helpful for the future. And then Doug Kazmierek, our Chief Data Officer and also leader of Simio Cloud, will be talking about kind of the future of Ask Strings, how to make them much more personalized and those sorts of things. And then our latest discussion was overcoming production increases. That's up on our YouTube page, and all this is available at wearemore.com/education/webinars. And I think I also have it set up. So if you go to wearemore.com/webinars, it will get you there as well.